What is up, good people? Thank you so much for checking out this video. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. Thank you so much to the new subscribers. Good to see you. Hope all is well. All that. Let's jump into it. It's a bright day, so I got to keep my eyes on the road here, right? Um, so I want to have a discussion about what marriage is, and I was having a conversation with my son, and I made a video before about why nobody told me this and all that. So I wanted to have a discussion about what marriage is and what to expect, and what I would tell my younger self and what I would tell any young man about marriage and getting married and whether you should do it and all of that. So let's jump into it. First, you got to understand that marriage, and I'm talking about traditional marriage. People are trying to redefine marriage, marriage without the state and all this kind of stuff. And on my other channel, I did a video about that. Marriage is a contract between you, the state, and your wife. And yes, that goes for common law as well. People think that they can get out of common law. And it is an evolving process. The legal definitions, all laws evolve, they change over time, and the parameters change and things along those lines. It's a changing, evolving process. I'm trying to keep this short and simple. Marriage was designed to be a way to formulate families and all that. What it meant. In the English system, which the United States hails from, all Western, well, not all, but most Western nations hail from the English system. I'm talking about Australia, Canada, New Zealand, all of the UK, Ireland, Wales, all that. So they all kind of stem from that. So that's what marriage is, right? Short and simple, right? There's obviously marriages in different countries, what it means, polyamorous, polygamous, all that, But we're going to discuss what it is in the U.S. in the U.S. and whether you should do it or not. Now, you got to understand that marriage is a contract. I don't think that people really understand that, right? So think about being an NBA player, and I think about there's been numerous ones, but the one that kind of rings most to me was a guy named Allen Houston for the New York Knicks in the 80s, 90s, maybe 90s, 91, 92, something along those lines. Maybe even later than that, 95, 96, somewhere around there. I can't remember. So Allen Houston got this big contract. He had a couple of good years, and he got this really big contract, and then they signed him to this big contract, and he ended up getting injured, and they still had to pay him. I'm sure this happens all the time. So that's what marriage. That's kind of what marriage is, right? So even though he's not playing anymore, even though he's hurt, people retired, they still got to pay him. They still got to pay him. And so you got to look at marriage like that, man. You're entering a contract where you are taking the financial burdens of someone else. Particularly, this episode really is particularly for the men, but everybody should really listen to what marriage is. You have to make a conscious decision as to whether this is for you and whether this is going to be in your best interest. So you're entering into a contract in which something goes wrong, and 60% of the time it can and does. For divorces, and I'll come back to that in a minute, can go wrong, then you're stuck with a bill of having to pay alimony, child support, half of your 401k pension. These are all community properties and all that kind of stuff, right? So you really need to understand what it is, and that's why a lot more people are opting for prenuptial agreements, aka prenups. There's even such a thing as postnuptial agreements, where you can start making arrangements after you've been married. So you really got, I definitely highly recommend people understand the full extent of what they are. Talk to a divorce attorney and really understand that when you go down to the courthouse, when you go down to the city hall and you sign that piece of paper, you are signing up for more than just free sex, or a woman who's going to have sex with you, or a man who's going to have sex with you, or exclusivity and love and all that kind of stuff. You're signing up for potentially a lifetime, or certainly years of um, financial responsibility. Of course, if you have children, you have emotional, psychological responsibility that you need to provide to your children. So understand that that's what that is. So, as a young guy, I got married. Um, as a young guy, I got married, and you're kind of thinking with your little head there, because we weren't getting. I was a young guy. I grew up in church, very religious, and so we weren't supposed to have sex before marriage. So as soon as I became financially stable, I got married. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. In fact, when you take a look at the numbers, right, conservatives who are extremely religious like that often have very, very high numbers when they get married young. Uh, Often have very high divorce numbers when they get married young, because they get married for the wrong reasons, and ultimately to the wrong person, or they're not mature enough to handle responsibilities and make changes and understand that you can't be selfish and all this other type of things that comes along with it. And you don't realize that until it's too late, till you have emotionally more than likely destroyed someone, or you have brought children into the world that you got to provide for. And then one day you wake up and realize this person doesn't make you laugh. They don't like the same things. They're evolving and growing as a person. So you got to really be careful about all those kind of things. Um, what else would I tell somebody about marriage? Understand what it is, what you're getting yourself into. Understand why you're doing it. Uh, Understand why you're doing it. Why am I getting married? If you're getting married just to have sex, or to lock someone in, or to make sure that you are committed to one person, then you are setting yourself up for failure. You are setting yourself up for failure. I talked about the marriage rates, right? 50-60% of divorce rates. Those are people who actually file for divorce. But before people actually file for divorce, they often live separate lives. Um, they often live in separate bedrooms. They're going sexless for months and years, decades. I know people who hadn't touched their wife. I know a dude who didn't touch his wife since his honeymoon. I know another guy who I met a few people like that who didn't touch their wives, who just didn't. Their wives just weren't into it. They didn't enjoy it. You know, you know, all this type of stuff, right? One had a baby and immediately touched her. Got married. They had relations, consummated the marriage, and then had a baby, and he hadn't touched her since that time, and the baby was 16 or 17. And he's like, as soon as the baby's out of here, I'm gone. But wants to raise his kid. So, and me being a police officer, man, I want domestic violence cases. Constantly we're going to people's houses, even just routine cases like medical. We would call it medical assist. Um, we would meet people, man, and oh my, would just tell you, oh my wife's bedroom's over here. What? Listen. And I'm quite sure if you may know people like that who are living in separate bedrooms and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's you don't know what's going on inside somebody else's house and all that. So you got to understand that that's what that is. So before the divorce comes, there's years and years of just living separately, or antagonizing behavior, and intimate partner violence, domestic violence, all this type of stuff. So you really got to understand that, man. It's hot here. What else would I tell somebody about marriage before you do it? Your happiness is irrelevant. No, actually that's not true. Your happiness should be secondary. Let me put it like that. It's not irrelevant. Your happiness should be secondary. Now you should be content in your marriage. You should have a goal for your marriage, but your happiness is going to be an emotional state that is going to be fleeting. It's going to be up and down. So you cannot, should not, must not listen to that. Um, you can't listen to that. It is a situation that people put themselves into. Speaking about the divorce thing, it is a situation that people put themselves into with the hope that another person can make them happy, with a hope that this will alleviate childhood trauma, that this is a chance to make money, to get out of poverty, for this person to be your soulmate, to this person to do all these other things. I would definitely say don't look for anyone else to do any of those types of things. Have your own goals, have your own dreams, have your own ambitions, have your own life, have your own hobbies. I think those things are essential. There's nothing worse than somebody constantly running up to you telling you they're bored. I'm bored. I am not your court jester. I am not your entertainment. Go pop in a movie. I had many hobbies, right? So, that's another conversation for another time. But you gotta and should have hobbies and maintain your own person. Listen to a podcast the other day about decentering men, and I actually kind of agreed with the ladies on this. Right? They were trying to say, they were trying to say some things about decentering men and all this, saying that it was a negative thing, but I actually think that it was really kind of a benefit. I mean, if a woman decenters you, and I'm not talking about decenter as in they don't need you, they don't want you, they don't like you, or as a man or a male, but just talking about, my life shouldn't revolve around having a husband or a man or anything. I think that that's a good thing, because I know, I have hobbies. There's things I want to do. I was trying to start a podcast. I was trying to, write a book and go back to school. I got things I'm doing, right? I'm trying to make something, and if I have to stop what I'm doing because I got to entertain you, I got to take you out to the movies. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about all the time, right? Every day, and it's like, come spend some time with me. Come watch a movie with me. All right. I mean, it can get to the point where it can be suffocating, because as a man, you're supposed to be on your game, your purpose, right? So if the ladies want to have a purpose, you can go back to school, you can start a knitting club, you can start a book club. I mean, find something to do. Find something to do. I definitely appreciate that. Um, what else would I tell? Had a conversation with my son. What else would I tell? What else would I tell? You have to, know yourself first. What you want, what your desires are, what your dreams and hopes and vision is for yourself, for your life. As a man, I'm saying, you really got to know that before you bring somebody into your life and into your world and try to build something together with that person. You really have to know yourself. You really have to be a self-centered, not selfish, but self-centered person. Self-centered means that you're stoic, that you're thoughtful, that you have goals, purpose, that you have some sense of leadership, that you are uh, uh, driven. The best analogy about self-centered is, when you get on an airplane and I tell you, if the cabin pressure drops, the mask is going to fall down, and you're going to put the mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. Don't put it on your kids, and then you end up passing out, right? So put it on yourself first, then put it on your kids and your spouse or whatever, or help somebody in another seat or something like that. But make sure you help yourself first, and that's all we're saying. That's all the self-centered means, is that you're helping yourself first, emotionally stable, psychologically stable, all of that. Next point I would say is marriage is a commitment. Marriage is a commitment that you're committing to take care of other people. Um, Marriage is a commitment that you have to take other people, that you're committing to take care of other people. Primarily, number one is your wife. You're a commit, or your husband, or whatever. But primarily, but I'm making this mostly for the men, because I think that the men don't know what it is and all that. You really have to be very, very cautious. You are making a commitment to take care of another person, and that is, yes, what I just talked about emotionally, right? So there's going to be times when you got to go spend time with them. You can't be on a video game or doing your own hobbies all the time, right? So you are making, so she may have come to you with her problems, and you got to be emotionally, psychologically ready to hear these problems and to help her either figure out the problems, listen to the problems, or even help to financially resolve the problems. And you got to be good with that. You got to be good with that. You got to be good, and women got to be the same way, right? You got to be good with that. Helping some man, push somebody in the right direction. Um, and then when the children come, help them to become emotionally stable, psychologically viable, financially uh, uh, good stewards as they progress and grow up. Put them in sports, put them in music lessons, whatever they like to do, computer classes, coding, whatever's coming up in the next future technologies. Put them in that stuff. Make sure that they are viable young people who grow up. And you got to be ready for that, man. That is an emotional toll. They say that, and I think a good age. I think a good age for men is probably 35. My mother used to tell me 30 was a good age for men, but I think with the changing economy and all that, there's so much more that's changed. You got to make sure that you're certainly mentally mature to do it. But I would say 35 is probably a good age. It's probably a good age, and that's gonna vary, but you're still figuring out yourself. 30. If again, and this is just kind of just random, right? If you're a 30-year-old guy, you meet somebody who's young, viable, and can give you a bunch of kids, and she's got a good head on her shoulders. Why would you not? If you want to go down that road about getting married, then I think that you could and should. I think the number one thing to keep a marriage together, the number one thing to keep a marriage together is keeping life out of your business. Let me put this a different way. Keeping society, keeping people out of your business, and keeping business out of your married life. Here's what I mean by that. We are so tempted. We are so tempted. We live in a new day and a new age. I talked about this before, but think about this, right? In the United States, again, marriage has looked different in different communities across the world, and I'm not going to go into a archaeological, anthropological argument about what marriage is and how it has evolved and all that. But in the United States, post slavery, post the antebellum period and all that, people lived in their small communities, and they got married to somebody who went to their local church or local high school, and all that. So um, and so they had things in common and all that. But that world is been shattered. That world has been shattered by the internet. You have people sliding in people's DMs and their Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and whatever else is out there. I don't even know anymore. I think you got to get rid. I think you should not have that. I mean, unless you have a business, and my only purpose, I actually started deleting people when they just posting pictures of themselves because I don't want to see that. 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 Now, I still watch funny videos and all that, right? And TikToks and viral stuff like that. But I think that's funny. But people just posting pictures of them at the beach, and I don't look at that. You got to eat, and I think this is just my humble opinion. I was a married guy for a long time. I'm trying to give you some game as to what I think could make a marriage last longer than mine did. Um, there's a famous line. If I can find it, I'll clip it up here. I call it experience. Thanos and Thanos is having a conversation with Loki. You know, Loki's volunteering to do something. He's like, Thanos says to him, you failed. You failed at this. If you call failure experience, right? Well, I'm calling, and Loki's response was, "Our experience is experience, right? I've been through this, so listen to a guy who's been through it, and I'm trying to give you some game as to how you can make it last and be successful."
There are two more stones on Earth. Find them, my children, and bring them to me on Titan.
Father, we will not fail you.
If I might interject, if you're going to Earth, you might want a guide. Do you have a bit of experience in that arena?
If you consider failure experience.
I consider experience.
Keep social media, keep people out of your life. When you stand at the altar, think about this. When you stand at the altar, you are making a commitment. And this is, very, very much a Christian thing, but I'm assuming some type of saying is similar in Islam and other religions. You're making a commitment that this person is going to be your world, your go-to, your ride or die, and you're going to bring children to the world and all this type of stuff. But in the Christian tradition, the saying was, what God has put together, let no man put asunder. And that people often kind of said, that's really about somebody cheating and don't let it. But no, that's your mother-in-law, that's your father-in-law, that's your sister-in-law, and I'm going to include everyone else. Don't tell your bosses, your coworkers, your work husband, all this crazy foolishness, right? Your work husband, work wife, church husbands, church wife. You really have to put that out of your head. You have to eliminate all these type of people. And I'm not talking about not talking to them and all that, and not going out socializing with them. But your married business, keep that your married business, and you really have to be committed to this person. They really have to. Always the saying about you being your best friend. They really have to be your best friend. They really have to be your best friend. They have to be somebody that you can trust, talk to about anything. And that takes a little bit of a vetting process. And I don't know if that's being ingrained in people as they grow up. I tend to see it more in more religious people who have this philosophy, right? We live in a world that, man, everything is on the internet. I tease my son. I've never seen a generation, of course, but I don't think there has been a generation in history that just don't know how to keep their mouths shut. And they put everything. They put the food where they're going on vacation. Everything's on the internet. You want the world to see how you're flashing, flossing, how you're moving. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't think that married people should have, other than social reasons, keeping in contact with a cousin who lives somewhere. You know what? I'm gonna back up. I don't think that married people should have social media. This is gonna be controversial. I don't think you should. If you got a cousin who lives in California, and you need to stay in contact with them because of you see what their kids are doing, is that person really close to you? It really just comes down to nosiness. You got nothing to do. You're scrolling, whether you're on the toilet, you're just scrolling. You're just seeing what other people are doing. This is my opinion, and I think that when you look at, here's why I'm saying that, because when you look at other people, there's a comparison that goes on. And I'm saying this, comparison is the thief of joy. I didn't know this was a Mark Twain quote. I just heard it again. I think it was Mark Twain. Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is you're looking at other people, what kind of car they got, what kind of house they got, how many kids they have, who's got a new Birkin bag, who got this, who's got that. That is going to destroy your happiness and contentment. That is going to do it. Get rid of it. Your life, you should be insular and developing, building, creating a life with this person. Here's where we're going, right? Right? Here's where we're going. Here's how we're going to get there. We're going to educate ourselves. We're going to read this. We're going to start a business. We're going to raise these kids. We're going to have 2 kids. We're going to do this. We're going to move to this place. We're going to evolve at that. And no one else should have input into that. No one else. If you need to talk to somebody else and bounce this, say, hey, listen, this is a good idea. I would say get a therapist, get a counselor, maybe the pastor of your church, somebody who's really, really going to call it like it is. And you got to be careful about a lot of these people, because they're not really all that disassociated like you think they would be. You think that a pastor would be very, very neutral, but a pastor doesn't want you to leave his church. Oh, no, that's not a good idea. Well, you should stay here in this community. Don't move to Wisconsin or whatever. Don't take that job over there. They're thinking about themselves. And I've seen this. I've seen this. It's not just me, I've seen this. You must be very, very careful about who you're talked to about your business. About your business. You got to be very cautious about that. Your plans, your goals, your hopes, your dreams, man, and you got to go for them, man. And that's why they say that men should really be established before, which I agree with, right? You don't be 25 years old or 20 years old. You don't have anything going on, and then you're trying to bring this person on because you want to lock her down and you want to start having families. No, you got to be established. Men must be established. You must be established. You must know where you're going, how you're going to get there, and have a plan. You must have a plan. So keep the world out of your business and keep your business out of the world, right? You must, social media and other influences, your in-laws and family and stuff. How's your marriage going? Everything is good. Everything is fine, you know? Not we're having problems in this. And don't share your problems with people, right? This has been said so many times in so many ways. I'm just going to echo what everyone else has said because I agree with it. If you start telling your best friends and your family your problems with your spouse, they're going to look at them a different way. And then you're going to be all healed up and moved on, and you guys come to your issue. But that other person will never forget that. Keep that stuff to yourself, man. Keep that stuff to yourself. It's okay to have a good best friend who you can confide in and all that kind of, even bounce stuff off of. But the whole world to know, and different people in your church, man, you got to watch that, man. You got to watch that. You got to know who you can talk to. You got to know who you can trust. You got to know who's going to keep a secret. You got to know that, man. And hopefully your spouse is that person. Let me finish this off with the vetting process because I don't think that people really understand how important that is. Vetting being the background check, the information check, Can you trust this person with your finances? You read so much stuff about man stuff comes across my feed. That's another reason I'm like, oh man, it's social media stuff. But there's people out there, and listen, I've seen this on my law enforcement job too, right? I think it's exacerbated, been made worse by social media. But as an officer, I saw it all the time. People. People leaving each other because they don't make enough money. You leave each other because the boss at work. You leave somebody for the boss at work. You leave people. I saw it all the time. This guy doesn't make enough money, and I'm moving on. I've grown up emotionally, and all this type of stuff, man. That's all that to me is all just talk about. I'm seeing that this person is, this person that I pledged my life to is no longer doing it for me. That's really what they're saying. For whatever reason, you met somebody else. There was a saying we had in the police department, about sometimes, when ladies join the police department, they would leave their husbands and they would start messing around with these other guys. And the saying was, you have Clark Kent at home, but you can mess around with Superman, right? Because he's big, strong cops and all this kind of stuff, right? So, same thing happened, in many organizations, the military and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's where the comparison comes in at. So you got to keep all that stuff. Remember, you made a commitment. And that's why you got to be mature enough. And you should not be you should not be driven by. This guy just pulled in here. I'm in this park, right? He pulled in here, had his kid get out, go into the woods to use the bathroom. There's porta potties over here. Whatever. You should not be driven by. If you're a guy, if you're established, you should be driven by your need for, or your desire to have children. But you should not be you should not be married to somebody because you have a need for companionship, because you're lonely, and because you want to have sex. Because once you've accomplished that, you got to make sure that this is the right person for you, that you want to spend your life with this person. They make you laugh. They don't make you cry. They don't stress you out. They add benefit to your life. They're an asset and not a liability. And you really have to make sure that those things are all in place. They're all in place. You have to take time to vet that person, to get to know that person. There's a thing that the ladies are said to do that's called the ish test, right? The ish test. That means that they're testing you. They want to make sure that you're tough enough. If you can't stand up to me, then how are you going to stand up to some other guy when we're at a comedy club or we're at a bar or something, whatever. So you got to be able to pass those type of tests. Your spouse, are doing some type of emotional assessment of you, physical assessment of you for ladies, right? They want to make sure that you can take care of them, protect and provide. Do you make enough money, and are you tough enough to handle what we got going on, or handle anybody who's going to come into this house, come into our lives, or protect me when I go out? That's what they want to know. So men, you got to make sure that your woman is emotionally stable. What is her family like? What is her mother like? What is the relationship that she has with her father? What is the relationship she has with her mother and the other females, other ladies in her life? What are her aunties like? Are they married? Do they push for things? Are they positive influences or negative influences? All that's going to bleed into your relationship, and you really need to make sure that all that is going on, or to your satisfaction and benefit. Don't just look at a woman, see a pretty face and a big butt, and think that this woman is going to make a perfect wife. And whatever it is that you want. I grew up with a family, even though I was a product of a single household. The uncles and even the people in my church, they all were very, very masculine. They all were very patriarchal. I know that that's a bad word today, but they were all very patriarchal. The men worked, and they were served dinner, and they were the heads of their households. That's what I want. I'm not looking for, if I get married again, I'm not looking for somebody who's a partner. I'm looking to protect and provide for somebody. I would prefer them not to work or have to work. If you want to do something on the side, this is what I want. I'm not saying this. I know it's a new generation, new time, and all that. I'm not looking for that. I think there's too much stress out there in the world. And you want to come home and you want me to listen to it. I'm not doing that. No, I'm just telling you, I'm not doing that. Somebody else wants to do it, you go ahead and do it. But you got to be emotionally stable enough to be able to handle that, and be patient enough to listen to someone else vent about whatever. And if you're not there, don't do it. Particularly with the evolving environment that we're living in, where people are living, working more, and all these different household divisions need to be done, work and all that. So you got to figure all that out. So those are just some of my thoughts about marriage, right? What it is, this legal contract, even common law marriage, legal contract in which people enter into with the state, and says you are taking financial responsibility. It's primarily financial. Understand that it is primarily a financial contract. The love, the happiness, the emotional support are all second, tertiary, whatever fourth would be. Whatever that word is. I can't remember. Tertiary. I don't know what it is. Whatever that word is. It's all that. Understand that. Keep people out of your business. Family, friends. See a professional person or talk to somebody who you have, through life experiences, that they will never ever repeat it. Don't take your business to work and all this kind of stuff. I suggest complete elimination of social media, except for, if you want to check on it every time from time. I'm not saying delete accounts or anything. I'm saying from time to time you want to check them maybe once a month or whatever. See whatever's going on. But that other stuff, man, about because it's just a distraction, and it causes you to look at other people and think that that your ex who you love, or your person that you're with, is somehow inadequate. And that is, nobody's ever going to be there. And that's, we are suffering. This society is suffering from this overabundance of options of everything, cars and food, and where to go on vacation and jobs, and, well, not jobs, but you know, all this other, you know, and mates, and this guy's better, and this guy makes this amount of money, but he's not this tall, and I want this, and I want him to have this, and this girl's got this going on, but she can't cook, but this girl can cook, but she don't look like this, and man, it's a tough world out there, man. It's a tough world out there. So, what else? So keep the world out of your business. Understand the financial assessments that you come along. Make sure that you are mature enough to deal with whatever you got going on. Make sure that you are mature enough to deal with whatever life is throwing at you, to be able to handle those things, and all that. So, last thing I would say is make sure that you are dealing with and talking to someone who, if you're going to get married, you know, talk to some elders who have been married, or listen. There's wisdom in talking to people who've been divorced. You know, why did you get divorced? How did this happen? How did your marriage break down? And what would you do differently? And this is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you. And fight for your marriage, man. Fight for it, man. Fight for it. And I mean fight. Go to therapy, change, listen, do self-examination. That's what this whole channel is about, doing some self-examinations about yourself, getting yourself mentally there, pushing yourself, and it applies to marriage too. I'll do something else about, you know, about marriage. I'll maybe do a part 2 to this. Why would I get married? Would I get married again? I mean, I'll probably title it that. So maybe we'll look for that in a couple of days. So anyway, let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Hit me up in the comment section. Is there anything that you need to know, or that you forgot, or that you'd like to know, or that you'd like to know about marriage, whatever. So